What's up everyone, my name is Cincotta, and over the next two videos, we are gonna show you 6 different lighting setups for headshots. So before we even get started, I got a question for all you guys. How many strobes, how many lights do you use when you're currently taking headshots? Just sound off in the comments. Let me know, is it 1, 2, 3, 4? How many lights do you use? Today, I'm gonna show you up to 6. Maybe you one light people, I'm gonna convert you. And maybe there's people out there who are doing 8, 9, 10 lights. I don't know. So I wanna hear from you. I genuinely wanna know, let me know in the comments, how many lights you currently use to make your headshots. Okay, now, before we get started, here is my goal, right? Headshot photography can be boring and it can be extremely unique, right? Depending on the lighting you use, the backdrop you use, that can change the mood of the overall headshot, right? Like if you do a high key shot, white background, it's very simple, very clean, perfect for websites. But what if somebody wants something with a little bit of mood, a little bit of dimension, right? Some texture, some contrast, some punch, right? I'm just throwing adjectives out there. Lighting is going to help you through that. And so my goal today is to start with one light, talk you through why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then progressively build to a 6 light headshot setup. And you might get to the end and be like, is this guy out of his mind? Why do I need 6 lights? So we'll see when we get to the end of this what that shot looked like with one light and what it ultimately looks like with 6. So thank you for being on this journey with me. Let's talk some equipment here before we get started. I am shooting all of them with the same lens, same camera for consistency. I am using a Canon RF 50mm 1.2 lens. I'm also using the Canon EOS R for the entire shoot. I'm also going to shoot everything horizontal, right? Looks better on video, gives you more detail, so you can kind of see what I'm trying to teach. Now, we all know that if you're doing headshots, portraits, you might go vertical, horizontal for some, but for the sake of teaching you, I'm going to stick with a horizontal image. I'm also going to make a decision to shoot everything at 5.6. Again, more as an instructional method so that you're seeing consistency from lighting setup to lighting setup. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so we are gonna start our first setup, one light, okay? We have a elephant background in the back. It's a grayish background. I wanted to stay somewhat neutral on this because it's not about the background, right? If I were to use a white background, things are gonna look completely different than if I use a black background, let's say, okay? So this is a nice kind of neutral area for us. So the first setup is gonna be one light. I'm using a Profoto B10 Plus. We are dialed in to f5.6, ISO 200, shutter speed of 200, and I'm using their 5-foot octa, right? So I want a larger light source for this first shot. So let's get to it. Let's start making these images and adding light from shot to shot. Let's go. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is because you can see, and I'm sure many of you watching are gonna realize that there's ambient light leaking in here. But what you'll see is because of the shutter speed and f-stop that we chose, there's very little ambient light hitting Alyssa in this shot. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take a shot, no trigger, so that you guys can see what that's looking like. Okay, so here we go. Let's stay here for consistency. 1, 2. Okay, and as you're gonna see popping up on your screen, there's little to no ambient light leaking in to light either Alyssa or the background. It's damn near black. You see a little bit of skin tone, but that's not where the light's coming from. So the light is being somewhat isolated here from the B10 Plus. All right, so here we go. First shot, beautiful. All right, so let's get our first shot with light here. Chin out and down. Down a little bit. There you go. 1, 2. One more, 1, 2. Okay. So what you guys are gonna notice if I'm walking you through this, you're gonna see a darker, moodier image, right? She's wearing a black top on a gray background. So there's not a whole lot of separation between her and the background, but it is a darker, moodier image. The earrings are popping, of course. We've got a great lighting pattern on her face, right? So it's kind of shifted. It's not Rembrandt. I'm not looking for Rembrandt, but it is shifting a little bit from camera right to camera left. That's because of the lighting location. We've got great catch lights in her eyes. And that's a perfectly acceptable headshot. But of course, it could be better, right? And this is what we're gonna start building on. So with one light, a nice large light source, 5-foot octa. We're able to get a perfectly acceptable headshot with a lot of mood and attitude and contrast to it, especially once you start editing it, right? So this is a really good, acceptable image. Now, what I want to do is move into a second light. So now I want to move to clamshell lighting, which for the most part is my standard lighting setup. All right, now for the second shot, what I want to do is add and build onto that first shot. We are going to make a change to the lighting modifiers for a second, right? So what I'm going to do is I want clamshell lighting. So I've got a 1x4 strip box up top, and then I'm going to have a 1x3 strip box underneath, and I'm going to shoot right through them, and that's going to create a much more even lighting on the face. I use this a lot for headshots, beauty shots, kind of gets rid of those shadows, gets rid of that dimension. So that first lighting setup is perfect for like male lawyers, love that, right? Female real estate agents, they're gonna like this clamshell a lot better because it's very forgiving on the skin, right? So it's gonna create all even lighting. When you have that shadow, that's when you're really starting to see imperfections in someone's skin. So especially as people get older, right? We're not all like 17-year-old models with flawless skin. These are real people. So when you're photographing headshots of real people, you want to be conscious of that, okay? They want to look good, they want to feel good. So this second lighting setup is beautiful lighting, and I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing. The main light is going to be typically about a stop. The top light is going to be our key light. That's typically going to be about a stop brighter than the fill light, which is what's going to be coming from underneath, because you still want some shadow. Now, I haven't set it up yet. We're going to set it up now. And I always say season to taste. This is going to be that moment where we season the taste. Maybe I give it 1:1 on the lighting ratio, right? Maybe it's 1:2. We'll start messing with that to see what looks right. So let's get started and take our 2-light headshot now. Let's set up for it. So we just finished setting up for our second headshot. And what you're going to notice is we've changed modifiers, which I already told you we're going to do. And we've got 2 strip boxes. Now, we've got one up top, our key light, and then one underneath, our fill. And I'm going to show you 3 different shots. One with the top light only, the bottom light, and then them combined. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is light is additive in nature, meaning I want that final shot to be 5:6, but I'm not going to meter in each light or any of the lights at exactly 5:6, because when the top and bottom combine, they are going to give us 5:6. But there is a 1-stop difference between the top and the bottom, which I'm going to meter in to confirm for you so that you see those different shots. So it's very important to have a light meter. If you don't have a light meter, you're going to have a very difficult time getting your ratios correct. And I know these things seem scary. They're dummy proof. They are super easy to use. I'm using a Cincotta L478DR. Been using this for years, and it ensures that I get exposure correct. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, who cares if I'm a half stop off, quarter stop off, I'll fix it in post, and that's fine. Look, it's not how I advise it. I want you to get it right in camera, but here's what you won't be able to fix, the ratio. That's why this is so important, because you might be able to fix overall exposure, but you're not going to be able to adjust the power coming out of one light versus another. So try and get it right, pick up this light meter. Let's get shooting. Let me show you the difference between these shots. All right, let's meter in on this first light. So here we go. First meter reading is 4.08, so not quite 5.6, but almost there, right? It's 4.0 and 0.8. So it'll be 5.6. So now I'm going to turn off, and let's take this shot so you guys can see it. Pull your hair all the way around. Perfect. Turtle for me. All right, so now remember, this is just the top light at this point. Here we go. Chin this way just a little bit. 1, 2. Okay, so now you're seeing just the top light on. That's hitting her at 4.08. So we're going to turn this off. Now we're going to turn on just the bottom light. Okay, let's meter it. And that's hitting at 4.0 flat. So there's almost a full stop difference of the 2 lights hitting her. And I want that because I don't want pure beauty light on her face, right? I don't want even lighting. I still want to see some dimension under her nose, under her chin. And if these 2 lights are firing at the same power, you lose any of that shadow, which is what shapes the face and creates a more pleasing portrait. So now I'm just gonna take a shot with just the bottom light on so you can see this. Here we go, 1, 2. Right? And that's got that kind of horror lighting look to it, as you can see. But you can also see how underpowered it is compared to the previous shot that had that lighting coming down, right? So you can see that there's a full stop difference in this. Now we turn on both lights and we're gonna get a pleasing portrait. Let's meet her in. And we're at 5.6 now. So that's, we're at 5.6.2. So that's about where we want to be. We can come down 1 tick on each light to get that dialed in just perfectly. Hit it. Hit it. All right, so we're at 5.6 now. Let's shoot away. All right, so here we go. So now we're seeing the lights combined. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and one more. 1, 2. And now we've got a beautiful beauty portrait on all that. Right, so as you have that image up on your screen, I'm hoping you can see the difference and why that first portrait with 1 light is perfect for men or just a dramatic portrait. You can use it on females as well, but I like that first light setup for doctors, lawyers, anything that needs a little bit of that badassery, right? In the second lighting portrait, as we look at it, you're seeing these beautiful catch lights in her eyes, but we're not overpowering her with the light. Notice the shadow on her jawline and her cheekbones. We're not losing that definition because of that one-stop difference between the key light and that fill light. And so that feathering, that finesse, if you will, is so important to getting the shot right. That's why you can't fix it in post. You want to get this right at a camera, so your light meter can be your friend here. So I love the way that second light setup looks. She looks beautiful. We're illuminating her entire face. My female clients love this lighting setup. It's one of our go-to almost 90% of the time for our female clients, but this can still be better. And so what we want to do now is notice how that background almost looks black. Well, I can assure you that it's not black. And so that background is evenly lit with literally no light because she's far away. If I had to guess, I'd say she's a good 6.5 to 7 feet away from that background, right? So because of inverse square law of light, that light fall off, there's hardly any light making it to the backdrop. So how do we illuminate that and create a little bit of a vignette, a natural vignette, get some light on that background? Now, of course, we can come from either direction, but that never quite looks even. Maybe that's just artistic choice, but remember, this is a headshot. They're gonna be using it on business cards, they're gonna be using it on their website. So that spot, that bright spot behind them should be centered behind them. And that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna add a third light and fire it into that background. Now, typically, I can't tell you what this is gonna be metered in at because it depends on how far away from the background. The closer you get to that background with the light, you're gonna have more of a spot looking focus. The further you move that light from the background, it's gonna illuminate the entire background. Now, that's not what I want in this moment. I wanna push my light closer, get a little bit more of a hot spot in the center, but the trick is that center is gonna be behind her body and blocked. And so I'm gonna use that to create a fall off and natural vignette around her. So let's get to it. Let's set up our third light setup for our headshots. All right, so I just finished setting up the third light, and you'll notice it's on a shorter stand. I'll throw the what stand that is into the description because you're all gonna wanna know how we got that short stand. It's a personal favorite of mine. We've all had background light stands where the light's sitting up way too high. So anyway, I'll put that in the description. On that light, we have a 20-degree grid, so we're narrowing that beam. I'm gonna show you 2 different shots. I'm gonna show you one where it's really narrow, creating a very harsh vignette, and then I'm gonna remove the grid. I'll show you a different shot where it's giving it no grid and it's just softer and spreading a little bit more even to illuminate that. But again, this is one of those things where it's season to taste. You've got to figure out what look you like or don't like. That's what we all are. We're artists, right? So you got to bring your vision to life here, but you got to know what tools are available. So this is why I like having that. I also have another B10. That's what's on the back. And power-wise, I'm using the same power setting, the same, it's 4.03. So it's pretty much the same power setting as my fill light on the foreground, on my subject. Now, the reason you don't want to overpower that background, this is where people get in trouble, and again, your light meter is going to save you. This is not something you want to be messing around in post. I want to have that light not as bright as the key light. Here's why. Your eye will always go to the brightest part of any image. So if that background starts getting too hot, that's exactly where your eye is going to end up going, to the background and not your subject. So hopefully that's making sense and you'll see what I mean. So let's get shooting. I'll show you all the differences with and without the light so you can get a sense of what it looks like. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is turn off the top light and the bottom light here so that I can take a shot just with the background light on, because I want you to see what it looks like just with that background, all right? So here we go. Let's get our test shot here. Okay, and you're seeing on your screen now how subtle that fill is, but it's giving us some color, texture, and depth back there for sure. So now, seeing what that background light looks like with no main light or fill light hitting her, let's add that to the shot. And you're seeing, again, remember, we're still at 5.6, the way we started this entire photo shoot, 5.6, ISO 200, 200th of a second. We have not changed. There's little to no ambient light hitting her. The main and fill light are overpowering that, right? So let's turn these on. All right, let's fix your hair. You got it, get me your stance. All right, so now we've got all three lights on. Chin this way just a little. Here we go. 1, 2, and one more, 1, 2. So now you're seeing what a very pleasing shot. This is straight out of camera. We're not, this hasn't been manipulated or photoshopped or any of that other stuff. I'll add some final edits when it's all said and done. But this is about lighting. I want you to see how good this lighting is looking straight out of camera. Now, you might be looking at that vignette and being like, don't love it. I want more wash on that background. Totally fine. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to remove the 20-degree grid here. So this is our grid. I'm gonna remove this. And now, because I'm removing it, the power on this is going to be still too powerful on this, right? That power is the same power that was firing through the grid. And whenever you're pushing light through a grid, you need a lot more light, a lot more power to get through and hit the wall. So I guarantee you, if I meter that right now, I'm probably gonna be another stop or two higher. So I gotta dial that down. But rather than me tell you about it, I'm gonna show you. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn on my light meter. Now remember, I told you this was hitting with the grid. Can you trigger it for me when I tell you? It was hitting at 403. It was the same as that fill light. So now when I hit this, hit it, it's jumped up to 5.6. So not quite a full stop, but almost a full stop. So I gotta dial this down. So I'm gonna dial this down to stop. Okay, hit it. I dialed it down too much, got aggressive. Hit it. And one more time. All right, so now I'm at about the same power as this fill light again, just over. I'm at 403 now on this. So now I'm gonna take another shot with no grid on that, and you'll see what it's doing to the background. All right, here we go. Test shot, 1, 2. And one more, 1, 2. Okay, so you're seeing those. Now you're still seeing that vignette, right? Because I do have a, we do have the Profoto zoom on here. So we do have the Profoto zoom, so that is kind of narrowing the beam a little, right? It's not bare bulb, but nowhere near with that 20-degree grid on. And now you're seeing that. And hey, it's up to you. Which one do you find more pleasing? Do you find that with a wider spread illuminating more of the background, or do you like a little harsher vignette? Again, it's one of those seasoned to taste. All right, everybody, that is it for our part 1 of this 2-part series. The next video, we're gonna talk about a 4, 5, and 6 light setup, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you wanna be alerted, turn on notifications, and I'm hoping you learned something from this. So the key here is realizing that from 1 to 3 lights, you can create drastically different looks, from moody and dramatic to beautiful beauty light that's filling and pleasing to the eye. But the key through all of this, right, no matter what you learn, is to season the taste. What is your style? Bring your own signature to it. You've got plenty of clients out there who want something stylistic, something that screams individuality. They're doing this for their businesses, for their acting, for their websites, whatever the case may be. It's up to you, it's up to us as artists to bring our own flair to it all. So, hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to watch part 2 of this where we cover 4, 5, and 6 light setups. Enjoy.